Like his twin brother Ausar, Amen Thompson is also a potential top 3 pick in the 2023 NBA Draft. This is Floor and Ceiling, let's break him down. The Thompson twins are, well, exactly that, and they measured identical at about 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan. That's perfect size for a wing in today's league, and what makes Amen all the more appealing is his playmaking. Thompson is a true point guard who averaged about 7 assists per game for OTE's City Reapers team. You can put the ball in his hands, and more often than not, he's gonna get your team a great look. Amen is creative and versatile. Even though he has his concerns in the half court, as we'll dive into later, his playmaking was always pretty unbothered in the overtime elite setting. Amen's handle allows him to control the pace of the game, his size lets him see over the top of defenses, and his length gives him access to unorthodox passing angles that others cannot reach. Amen's handle also deserves plenty of praise. At 6'7", it's low, it's tight, and it's very reactive. He's a lot more fluid stringing moves together than his brother, for example. And Amen can also use the left side of the floor much better. Thompson is a showtime, highlight reel type of playmaker. He puts pressure on the paint all of the time, so the low man is always wondering, what do I do? But then, Amen is so great at finding his bigs with pinpoint accuracy. Thompson is excellent at these drop-off passes into the dunker spot, which makes it really easy for centers to play with him. He's able to then dish these off with one or both hands, changing pace to keep defenders guessing, and with incredible body control. This shows up across the board offensively, but I like the usage as well. For instance, Amen can make reads out of a live dribble, but he's also capable when he's getting downhill off a cut or something else. When he's zooming towards the basket out of a handoff, then he's seeing the entire floor, and he's easily able to make the right pass out. Although Thompson is not a shooter himself, more on that to come, he is very skilled at generating threes. In a way, he reminds me of Ben Simmons with his ability to do this at his size and unique athletic profile. Once he's in the NBA, I'm gonna want to see how Amen fares playing more in the pick and roll. He was getting into his passes a lot out of isolations or drives at the OTE level. That's still gonna happen in the NBA, but not as much, and definitely not in tighter, half-court playoff type of games. However, I've loved the flashes. Amen can pass with either hand, and he's under control, deceptive, and poised with how he uses head fakes and changes of pace. Like with his twin brother Ausar, Amen also got a lot of reps in transition. I broke down why this is the case in the OTE environment in my last video, so I'm not gonna get into it as much, but it's just less structured than what you might get in the NBA, NCAA, or other leagues. A lot of Amen's usage came in the open court, which really benefited his athletic gifts. If the game kinda breaks down, then he's just able to get himself or his team up and down the court all of the time. This is exemplified through Thompson's quick outlet passes, which he's just awesome at, and that speaks to how quickly he's seeing the floor. The same tools that pop in the half court appear here, but with even more space. So Amen's first step, length, and creativity all come into play to an even greater extent. In the NBA, if he's given the keys to a team, he's gonna be really exciting to watch. Expect them to really push the pace, and the shameless speed that he kind of plays at is pretty similar to LaMelo Ball, honestly. The downside maybe is that he's somewhat of a risky passer. He averaged about 7 assists for every 3 turnovers at OTE, so Amen was fine. But when Thompson is running your team, you do have to understand. This is a showtime type of guard. He's gonna be trying unorthodox home run stuff. So I think it'll really just be a matter of Amen's team at the next level not trying to box him in and letting him make mistakes to figure things out. Getting into Thompson's scoring now, we do have to start again in transition. As we just said, so much of his time on the ball came in these situations. They come so easily to him because Amen is a crazy, generational athlete. He's gonna be among the best in the league the moment that he gets drafted, and at the OTE level, like Ausar, he was just head and shoulders above everyone else. If he got ahead of steam, especially in transition where you can't keep him from getting to where he wants because of his ball handling and elasticity, Amen was close to unguardable. He's great when he's just grabbing and going, but he can also be a defensive playmaker on one side of the ball before then pushing the pace in transition. And if Amen is next to another ball handler, then he's like a gazelle who can leak out, rim run, and get himself some easy points. We also saw that from time to time with OTE. Thompson was at his best in transition, but I was also encouraged by some of the signs against more of a set defense. Amen's brother Ausar really struggles going left, especially in these half-court type of settings. The point guard of the Thompsons still prefers using his right hand, but what sets him apart from his twin is that he's so much more comfortable also going left. And then, relative to everybody else, what sets him apart in my opinion is Amen's incredibly unique body control. Ausar also has it, but Amen's is even more ridiculous. He bends his super long arms over and around defenders to totally avoid them and then finish. These finishes are incredibly difficult, and Amen's layup package is pretty insane already. With his handle, Amen can get low to the ground, and he keeps defenders guessing with his sharp changes of direction, as well as his awe-inspiring first step. And whenever he has to operate in tight spaces, he most definitely has the gracefulness and dexterity to do so, and then come up with a play at the rim. By and large, I'm very high on Amen as a finisher. His volume is awesome, and he's dangerous in so many ways, be it through his speed, ball handling, length, or touch. However, like his brother, he's gonna have to keep developing his left hand. This isn't as exaggerated as Ausar, but it's still an improvement point regardless. And even though Amen's body control is absolutely special, I do feel like he's almost always trying to shy away from defenders rather than playing through them. Going up in traffic or truly against bigs is still challenging for Thompson, who would much rather avoid contact. Once he's in the NBA, this is going to be an adjustment for him to make. What really concerns me though is Amen's lack of an in-between game. Unlike Ausar, Amen projects as a ball-dominant point guard right now. He's by far at his best when the ball is in his hands, so he's going to need some juice as a self-creator. Thompson is able to get to the rim a lot, which already speaks to his process and athleticism regardless, but I just feel like he has no real counters right now once his initial move gets cut off. To be fair, this is easier said than done given how flexible Amen is and the crafty angles that he comes up with to finish, but adding a floater or a runner is going to be crucial regardless long term. Thompson takes these, but they don't go in. I also think that a turnaround 2 would come in very handy. At 6'7" with those long arms and his handle, Amen has all the means to get into this type of shot if his drive gets taken away. But the thing is, and as we're about to get into, he's practically a non-shooter at this stage of his development. So even if he's taken a handful of these shots this year, he's a really long ways away from actually being a factor from the mid-range. In the future, ideally this becomes less of a tough shot, but I'm looking for Amen to drill this sort of fadeaway when he sees a wall between him and the basket. As we just said, the most glaring problem that Amen has right now is his jump shot. I don't know that it's broken, but it's gonna need a total rebuild. His mechanics are all over the place, especially off the dribble, but honestly as a jump shooter in any capacity. Because of this, Thompson's self-creation ability becomes really limited as a result. This season as a guard, more than 30% of his points were dunks. Amen is almost exclusively reliant on drives that largely project very well, but they do still have some concerns about them. From 3 in particular, Amen has shot a little under 30% on less than 2 trays a game. That comes from a 120 game sample size dating back to before Overtime Elite, so what that tells us is that Amen is both a less willing and a less accurate 3-point shooter than his twin. Even when he's wide open, defenses are fine letting Thompson shoot. And if he's guarded, you can kind of forget about it right now. He already has plenty of room to grow as a perimeter shooter, and that's going to become even more pronounced with NBA size and skill. At the bare minimum going forward, Amen is going to have to convert on his wide open looks. His 70-ish% from the free throw line is the only encouragement that I could find here, but given that at least right now he's more of a primary ball handler and the point guard on your team, I am pretty worried about his total non-shooting that's even more extreme than Ausar's. In theory, you can offset some of this non-shooting away from the ball. The idea is the same as with Ausar, leveraging all those athletic tools and finishing at or above the rim to make Amen an impactful cutter. However, he's just not as active in this regard. Instead, I like Amen when he explodes out of handoffs or curls. That gets him going to the rim, and he's not having to go up against a set defense that can target his improvement points. Like with Ausar, I'm also really high on Amen defensively, maybe even a little bit more so. I think the strengths are largely similar. It comes down to that combination of fluidity, length, and burst that enables either of the twins to keep up with smaller attackers and be fearsome defenders at the point of attack. Amen is a natural point guard too, so I actually get the sense that he reads opposing guards a little bit better than Ausar. He has no problem sliding laterally at all and keeping his man in front. Thompson wasn't tested that much at the OTE level, especially by wings, but I think the broad idea of how sturdy he is in space will hold up in the long run. This defensive playmaking is fairly reflected on the stat sheet as well. Thompson averaged about 2 steals and 1 block per game this season. When it comes to his pickpocketing in particular, Amen times himself very well to cause turnovers. Even when he's not directly on the ball, he's dangerous because of how he can fly in at any second with his length and first step. Naturally, that also happens in the passing lanes. So in the NBA, I'm pretty in on the idea of Thompson as a help defender who, after getting stops, can then get his team going down the other end in a matter of moments. In terms of improvement areas, the biggest one isn't something to pinpoint as much as it is just tracking how defense translates from OTE to the NBA. This is still a really new pathway, and the Thompsons are its trailblazers. Since Amen and Ausar were so dominant in their 2 years there, they weren't always dialed in or making multiple efforts. That could mean ball watching or just playing some low effort, matador kind of defense. At times, it also kind of felt that Amen could just try to get by on his athletic tools, feeling like he could recover even when playing upright. That should work against the lower level of competitions, but in the NBA, more is going to be required from him. Overall though, Amen has all it takes to be a defensive stopper. He'll have to add some more strength, but with everything he has at his disposal, I'm confident that he could one day be one of the best defenders in the entire league. Comparing the two Thompson twins, I think that Amen is clearly the much better playmaker of the two. He's the better ball handler, he's the more natural point guard. I also think that something big to keep in mind is that Amen projects as a better finisher. He's much more able to use his left hand and really that side of the floor. But what concerns me truly is the absolute non-shooting. Now, that's already a struggle for Ausar, but with Amen being as ball dominant as he is, and with the rock being in his hands as much as it's going to be as the point guard, I am worried about that total lack of self-creation outside of drives and dunks. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to leave a comment telling me what you think of Amen Thompson, and if you enjoy the channel, if you want to watch more content like this, make sure to subscribe. Take care, and I'll catch you guys next time.